Hello guys, and welcome to your second lesson on pronunciation. So today we are going to look at stress patterns in three common phrases, and those phrases are could you, I'd like to, and I'm going to. So just very quickly to talk about stress. So stress in English does not mean that you're feeling stressed and anxious. When we talk about stress in English, we're talking about the loud parts of words and phrases, and it's a very, very important feature of English pronunciation. Stress patterns in English are challenging for lots and lots of different reasons, mostly because the chances are that your language has different stress rules to English. And because of this, a lot of learners find stress patterns very difficult to integrate, and that basically means they find it difficult to use English stress patterns naturally. But a good way of doing this is to learn pronunciation for common phrases, because if you can start getting really comfortable with stress in common phrases, it can become easier to use stress patterns in other times that you're talking. So we're going to practice the stress today for three phrases. So let's begin. Okay, so our first common phrase is a phrase that starts with could you. So could you is a very common way of beginning a polite request. And here are three phrases that begin with could you. So we've got could you give me a call? Could you give me a hand? And could you give me a sec? So just to be clear, this one, if you say this, you want them to phone you. If you say this one, you're asking for help. And if you say this one, you're asking for a little bit of extra time. Okay, so where do you think the stress is in these three questions? I'm going to give you a few seconds to think, and then I'm going to read the phrases. I want you to listen and check your ideas. Okay, so the first one. Could you give me a call? Could you give me a call? Second one. Could you give me a hand? Could you give me a hand? And the third one. Could you give me a sec? Could you give me a sec? So the stress is in the same place on each of those phrases. I'm going to read them again, and I'm going to ask you to listen for how I say this, could you, and how I say this, a. Could you give me a call? Could you give me a hand? Could you give me a sec? So this here is not could you, it's could you. Could you give me a call? And this here, this is really just a call, a hand, and a sec. So in spoken English then, stressed syllables are longer, they are louder, and they are higher. This means that the kind of pitch of my voice goes up when I say a stressed syllable. The unstressed syllables are lighter and shorter. Okay, so when you're practicing these sentences, if you go on to practice them, you want to make these words longer, louder, and higher. Okay, so phrase number 2 is phrases beginning with I'd like to. And I'd like to is a very common way of talking about things that we want to do. So here are 3 phrases that begin with I'd like to. Where do you think the stress is? So again, I'm going to give you a few seconds to think, where is the stress? Then I want you to listen and check your ideas. Okay, first one. I'd like to go home. Second one. I'd like to have lunch. The third one. I'd like to watch a film. Oh, there's my dog barking in the background there. So the third phrase, this phrase here, has more syllables between the stress. It's important though that this stress stays in the same place. So listen. I'd like to go home. I'd like to have lunch. I'd like to watch a film. So these 3 words are spoken more quickly than these 2 words here. And one good way of practicing this is to say da instead of words. So this one, da 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 da. This one, da 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 da. This one, da 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 da. Okay, and that can be quite a nice way to practice without worrying about the words. And you can also click your fingers to keep the beat. I'd like to have lunch. I'd like to watch a film. Okay, so the third phrase is phrases with I'm going to. And this is a very common way of talking about future plans, and don't use will for future plans. We don't use will when we're talking about plans. So, 3 phrases that begin with I'm going to. And again, I invite you to think about where the stress is, then listen and check. Okay, the first one. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go out. Second one. I'm gonna wash up. I'm gonna wash up. And the last one. I'm gonna see Sam. I'm gonna see Sam. And I'm sure you can hear as I say this, I'm not saying I'm going to go out. This is gonna. All of this is gonna. I'm gonna go out. So here is a question for you. Why is the stress on the prepositions out and up? Why is it on the prepositions, not the verbs? Because in phrasal verbs like go out and wash up, we almost always put the stress on the particle. Phrasal verbs very rarely are stressed on the actual verb. And then finally, I'm just going to give you a little technique that you can use to practice these phrases or any other bits of pronunciation. So first thing to do is to get out your smartphone and record yourself saying the phrases. Then listen and compare your recording with mine. What's the same? What's different? Now you can't, as we found out some of us last month, you can't upload MP3s to Facebook. I don't know why. If you would like me to check your pronunciation of these phrases, that is fine. You can record these as an MP4 file, that's a video file, And if you upload your video file into the group, I'll be very, very happy to listen to your pronunciation and give you some feedback. And that's the end of this lesson. I probably should have put a little Christmas picture here because it's almost Christmas. But I guess I wish you all a very happy holiday and a very happy new year.